Okay, looks like we're ready to go. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, or happy Wednesday for some of you. Thank you so much for hopping on this webinar. Feel free if you have any questions in the meantime or during the session. I'll make sure to be on lookout for any questions that you may have. And again, we're really happy that you're here, and yeah, looking forward to this. And yeah, feel free to send me any questions that you have either in the chat, or you can follow up an email. Either or is great. We'll make sure to get back to all questions at some point eventually. Maybe, like I said before, maybe not. We won't be able to cover any and all questions during Q&A today, but we'll make sure to get back to you at some point following this webinar. But thank you all again for attending today's webinar. Again, my name is John Oppenhimer, and I will be talking to you about card sorting, and specifically about how card sorting is done within the QuestionPro research platform. We're going to be covering, what card sorting is, what the purpose of this research technique is, and we'll also dive deeper into closed card sorting versus open card sorting, how to apply each, and what sort of the little differences between each of the two, as well as how to set up and then how to analyze the data. And then we'll follow with best practices, examples that are done within the QP platform, and then we will conclude with Q&A. And then that'll be it. Thank you again. I can't say it enough. Thank you again for attending. And if you guys are ready, let's get started. But before we do, just want to let you guys know, lucky six of the lucky attendees that will be here will be randomly selected to get a free 6-month trial of our research platform. So be on the lookout for that, and let me know. Be on the lookout for that. Let me know if you have any specific questions in regards to that. Okay. Just want to make sure. How's everybody? Let me know too if you have any audio issues.
Looks all good.
Okay, great. So let's get started. So what is card sorting? So, I mean, it really, if you're looking, just for background, if you've ever wanted to design a website but have no idea how to organize your content, or if you ever need to find out about a certain product or service, or its features and benefits that can translate into, and you want to know how to translate to your target audience, card sorting is an extremely effective tool. And it really is about understanding how people of your target audience understand and categorize information, whether it's you're categorizing to better affiliate your content, or if you're wanting to develop item hierarchy, or prioritizing just the level of importance of these attributes over others. So what mainly card sorting is, it's basically a highly interactive question and research techniques, and it allows respondents to sort items into categories. I know it sort of speaks for itself, but this is typically done by, this could be done online or in person, and you would basically drag and drop items into respective categories. This helps discover how people understand and categorize your information, as I said before. And you can also, you can categorize attributes or cards, or you can sort and rank based on order of preferences, whether it's like high versus medium versus low priority, or how frequently you use, things like that. So what's the purpose? Why do we use card sorting? So it's useful in a lot of ways. Mainly when you want to design a new website, or it's a new section of a website, or you're trying to improve an existing website, and you wanna better organize and label your content or your products, or for deciding site structure and visual hierarchy. Another thing too is that allows you to discover how users expect to find the content presented. So you're really developing a persona, and you're getting inside the head of your user. You're speaking their language, and you're helping find out what they're looking for, more quickly or more easily. You can find out how customers expect to see your information when grouped on a website. Thirdly, when you want to discover and compare how different people or different markets understand different concepts or ideas, you can do that as well. Because maybe your market represents a wide demographic, and you want to look at how different demographic splits perceive certain wording or certain content, and this can be wording or images. And then lastly, you get people to rank and rate items based on set criteria. So it's recommended for them. You're getting recommendations of what people want to try, how people want to rank or arrange items. It can be binary. It can be like yes, no, or useful or not useful, or it can be on a spectrum in terms of like levels of priority, things like that. So there are two main types of card sorting. There is closed card sorting, and then there is open card sorting. There is also the option to do a blend of both, but we're going to just keep these mutually exclusive today. That way you can understand the difference between the two. Having said that, these two can go hand in hand. So what closed card sorting is when the survey designer already has categories predefined. So you have your cards, but you also already have a set of categories that are in place. So you're building more of a conceptual frame in which you want to know where people think certain information belongs. And whereas open card sorting is you're allowing respondents or you're allowing participants to create their own categories. So there's no labeling done on the survey designer's end. And this is more, open card sorting is more of a generative exercise rather than an evaluative exercise. And respondents can give any answer. They're not confined to any one type of response. So that's the difference. That's the main difference between the two. But let's go into closed card sorting. So again, this is the exercise in which the survey designer has the categories predefined. And this is great for determining, this is great for finding out if customers or your market agree on where your information is best placed within existing categories. So this really is helpful for like UX research, but also for other areas like inventory or concept testing, things like that. You can pinpoint misleading or unclear labels. So like you can run this exercise and gather insights based on mixed results. Like for example, a card may not be designated to a category more than others do. And then you would go in and do that research. Or for website structure, having a product or service or link presented in multiple parts of a website. In case you find that a certain card is hard to understand or falls under numerous categories. That's helpful information as well. And then lastly, you can reduce the number of categories. So maybe in your case, the list of products and services that you have listed out are far too many for your consumer to take. It could be information overload. So in the case where you might have too much information, this exercise could help review which categories are ignored the most, and that can allow you, to remove those categories and to, I guess you could say, clear out the clutter. So it can be applied on websites, of course, but definitely also applied when you want to prioritize and rank content. So if you're looking to reduce content on landing pages to what people use regularly or use most often, you can do that. This helps by, you would gather this quantitative data and prioritize project tasks or product features. And if you don't know what the focus of the upcoming project would be as a market researcher, this can help you decide on what to work on next. So if you were working in a panel or working in a community, and you wanted to get insight on what your market, on what your folks want to talk about or want to discuss, or if there are voids that they want to bring to the table, you have an opportunity now to figure out, to prioritize what focuses you want to have with your members, with your respondents, with your market going forward. So that's one way to do it. Secondly, you can search filters and tags. Basically, you can establish what tags and filters people consider to be most important. Again, this is sort of part of UX strategy, and it allows you to, if you have the need to narrow down categories, and if you have to create a miscellaneous page, category, bucket, things like that. It's also applied on products, services, concepts, etc. A part of this exercise, you're crowdsourcing what values that that you want your team or your brand or your products to represent, and you can gather qualitative data by prioritizing these project tasks or these product features. Whether it's based on customer values, urgent needs, pain points, or voids, anything like that. So you can find out what actions people take across time, and also too, what comes to the mind of the consumer when they think about a certain product or a service. Now versus how they feel that way or how they felt about that service 3 to 5 years ago. So moving on, so now we're going to open card sorting, and as I mentioned before, this is more of a generative exercise rather than evaluative, and you'll get the most of it when you're starting a new design for a new website, or you're starting to improve one that you already have. So it works. So just like card sorting, you can run an open card sorting exercise that way for your website, but mainly, you can find out how people understand or conceptualize your information just from scratch. You're understanding where people expect to find information when they land on your website. You can also generate new ideas of how to structure and label your website information. Like you can come up with categories, or your respondents or your participants can come up with categories that you've never thought of before. And also too, you can establish if different user groups think in different ways about your information. Because these members are going to, because these participants are going to create the categories on their end, you're going to come up with a lot of different ideas. You're going to come up with a lot of different wording. You're going to come up with a lot of different categories as well. And this is great too if you're working on a website, and if you want to compare the current website you have to your competitors, or what your customers come up with. You can create a card sort with current website topics, or find out if website structure matches up with how people organize the same information, or you can get new ideas for how to structure a new site. So this is, so you can apply to web pages and content. That includes e-commerce sites, educational sites, news services, anything like that. And just like with closed card sorting, you can apply this on product, services, and concept as well. However, with open card sorting, this is not meant for item hierarchy. You're meant purely for affiliating and classifying your data or your cards and your attributes. This would not be meant for prioritizing your items as far as like usage or importance, nothing like that. That would purely be done through a closed card sorting exercise. So now, what information do we put on our cards? What exactly are our card attributes? And so they can be a list of any of the following. They can be written out as words. You can use phrases, or like advertisements and claims. You can use concepts, whatever those concepts may be. You could list out products that you're currently building or pushing out. Whether they're already existing products or if they're a prodigy of new products, anything like that. You can do news headlines. If you work for a journal and you're not sure actually how to classify your news or classify your information, you can do that as well. And as I mentioned before, you can categorize advertisements and claims. By claims meaning like emotional claims versus numerical claims versus competitor claims. And then lastly too, you can include images if you like. Examples of that could be certain clothing or certain furniture or appliances, and even logos. It could even represent, if you're in design, you can use design portfolios or photography websites, or if you have a design portfolio or have a photography website, you can use those kinds of images as cards, in case you need ideas for grouping images. And also too, if you do sketches or designs, and if you want to find out what people think of them, what are their initial perception, how would they bucket each of these designs, you can do that as well. And also too, something I want to just point out is, it doesn't have to be just words or just phrases. You can combine both. If you want to clarify the text, if you're not sure, if you have text but you're not sure if that will be enough information, definitely, if you feel compelled to include an image of it as well, feel free to do that. So how to set up your own exercise. So there are three key steps, and it's a bit of a meticulous process. I do definitely want to warn you guys about that. But the first thing you want to do is you want to put together your list of topics. In this case, you want to put together a list of about 30 to 60 topics. It's no hard limits, but this is what's recommended. You want to make sure you have enough useful data to make informed decisions, but you don't want to have not enough cards because they may not generate enough insights on the groupings, and you don't want to have too many because that can create fatigue and boredom for the participants, and that can lead to misleading insights. So 30 to 60 topics, somewhere around that range is something that's recommended. If you do run a closed card sorting exercise, feel free to go beyond 60 cards. That can work really well. So that especially if you have only so many participants joining, and you can really get some insights if you were trying to segment your data as well. But step two would be come up with your card content. Figure out all the lists of possibilities that come to mind, and sort of you want this to be you want to evaluate what respondents are participating or how they're categorizing information, but you want to also have foresight and brainstorm and mind map all the different information that you want to include for your participants. And another helpful tool is just use resources that you already have. So if you wanted to get more information on like site mapping or organizational chart or product inventory, things like that, get your hands on documentation, or you can run a content audit and select the most relevant items. That way you're not putting too much, that way you're not overflowing your exercise with too much content. Get a list from stakeholders telling you exactly what they want to see, or you can research similar organizations or competitors on their websites and see what they provide. These are all just little resources that you have in terms of coming up with your card content as well. And then thirdly, make sure each card represents a concept or an item that can be grouped. This goes back to the foresight that I was talking about, how you want your respondents to evaluate what cards fall into what categories, and that there's no right or wrong answers. When deciding what cards you want to include, look underneath the language for the concept that they represent. And something to point out too is you don't need to be. It's not about if you're focusing on a product specifically, it doesn't have to be written out in its most usable format or exactly how as they are on your website. Just remember, you're testing concepts, not usability. make sure that make sure that everything is on the same conceptual level or similar enough. What I mean by that is, say you have a category of vegetables on your list. You don't want to have broccoli in there, but you also don't want to have the term vegetables in there. There's one card is a category or a subcategory of another. So you want to make sure that everything is on the conceptual level. You don't want to compare broccoli to vegetables. Instead, you'd want to compare broccoli to carrots. So say you've gone through the exercise, now you have the data, or now you have the findings. What are the next steps after that? So first off, you want to, first step for interpreting your results is just get an overview of your participant data. What I mean by that is not so much the categories themselves, but look at who represented in participating in this exercise. What was the time frame? How many participants joined, and how long it took for them to complete the exercise. Then you're looking at the nitty-gritty. You want to look at, what are some of the repeating or common patterns that you look at when you go into the data. What are similarities and differences among different audiences and segments. You can also spot, and point out any anomalies or things that you didn't expect initially going in. If you spot categories you find similar, make sure to check those items. Compare the items within each category and see how similar or different they are. And then lastly, if you notice that some card labels are left aside more frequently than others, review those. Determine whether it's because the card labels were unclear or if the content itself just doesn't fit with the rest of the categories. This would fall into your, a category like this would fall into would sort of represent an outlier. So maybe that's information that you no longer need as part of your inventory or as part of your website. So let's dive deeper into the analysis. For closed card sorting in particular, approach that you want to take to your results is, make sure you look at the number of participants who sorted the same card into each category, because these are already predefined. That information will be available for you. You won't have to group. You don't have to group categories. I mean, you could, if you feel like certain categories are represented with similar cards. You can do that. Secondly, look into what cards have the highest or lowest agreement on where they belong. That way, you can within the QuestionPro tool, we're able to also rank within categories. What is the strongest, what are the strongest cards or what are the strongest attributes within that category. So you can also look and see what the average rank is within each category or for each card. Also too, you can see what are the most popular predetermined groups. That's obviously going to be very important because then you can understand how people categorize and define any and all or most of the attributes that you provide. And then also too, look at which categories meant different things to different people. And that's where, again, that goes back to, looking at a category and really seeing how skewed or how different are these attributes, and then look into why people select certain categories and why they selected others. But when you look at this overall big picture, I know I've been talking about outlier cards, but when you see that there are fewer outlier cards, that means that there's higher agreement among your participants. And then for open card sorting, so a lot of the approach is very similar. There's a lot of overlap between closed card sorting and open card sorting, as I mentioned. But when it comes to open card sorting, your approach is slightly different. First, you want to look at the labels that are commonly used to represent your attributes. Because these respondents are creating categories themselves, you're going to end up with data in which a lot of categories are going to be listed, depending on the number of participants that you have. But you can go forward on this and even do open-ended coding, as well as round off how many cards or attributes fall into each of these buckets. And you can also refine your data by standardize. That'll help you refine your data by standardizing categories, and then you can sort of look at the similarities between the categories in more depth first, and then you can bunch similar labels or like labels and standardize that way. And you can use the results from your open-ended card sorting, and like for future products, what you can do is you can use your results from open-ended card sorting exercises, and that can help leverage future closed card sorting exercises in the future, because you already have these categories generated by your participants in place. Secondly, you want to look at cards that most and all participants have put together in the same group. This is important because this is just figuring out where the most common card attributes falling in the most common categories. And then from there, you want to explore the extent of those agreements, which you can assess the effectiveness of that category by looking at the agreement scores. By agreement scores, what I mean is by the average rank that they fall within. Each card, what's the average rank within each category that they fell into. And also, you can look at the number of participants who included that score. And then lastly, look at cards that are never put together. These can be conceptually different between each other, at least among your audience or your market or your customers. Just see what falls under, or what can be, what falls sort of under the miscellaneous category. So going forward, so we looked at how to set up the exercise, how to evaluate the data. So what are the best practices? First, keep your total number of participants between about 30 to 50 participants. If you are running an online card sorting exercise, it's okay to have more. I think that gives you enough flexibility to exclude participants. Like if you wanted to dive deeper and look at different segments within your target audience, you can do that, and you'll still have reliable data to work with and to analyze. Secondly, make sure you recruit and manage participants for relevant data. It does take time to establish and recruit and manage these participants, so that they're successfully card sorting, and that the insights are heavily dependent on these participants themselves, and that they represent the demographic of intended users. But make sure, for another thing to mention is, make sure to include moderated participants. Don't include just loyalists. Make sure to include folks who are aware of your brand or are aware of your products, but maybe aren't the heaviest consumers for your brand or for your business. That way, you can just take a look at you can compare avid customers versus just regular customers. Number three, if you have a lot of information, just stick with main phrases and attributes. Again, this goes back to sort of cleaning up the clutter, but you'll only be able to include the most relevant cards, and you want to discard the rest. So, if you have too much information, again, you can sort of bore or tire your participants out, and that can lead to misleading insights. So if you make sure you just stick with main phrases and attributes, that's really the information that you're trying to get. So participants will be more likely to complete your card sort, and therefore you'll get more insights in the end. Fourth, make sure to provide all of the needed instructions. Let your participants know there are no right or wrong answers. Give them an idea of how long the exercise will take, and also for context, explain why they need to do this. You don't want them to blindly go in and categorize information, because it's important to mention, even if it's before they know what the cards are, you want to know how they're sorting you want them to understand how to best sort things, just based on the circumstances. Number five, make sure you don't lead and influence their process. You know, make sure you keep cards uniform. You know, you don't want to manipulate or force or encourage your participants to put cards in certain categories. As I mentioned before, there are no right or wrong answers. You know, and you know, you want to keep cards uniform, but also have them on a level plane. So make sure that they're written out the same way, or have them written out the same way, but also avoid any visual indications that could hint them towards a certain hierarchy. Like, for example, you don't want to have like if you're looking at fruits and vegetables, you don't want to have for bananas, you don't want to say bunch of bananas when you already have a bunch of grapes, because then maybe that might influence your participants to categorize things in bunches, rather than if you're trying to categorize your fruits and vegetables differently. 6, don't be too obscure. You know, make sure your items and attributes are explanatory enough so that you ensure your participants have good ideas on what the content might be. You know, keep cards uniform, but also vary the wording and the casting, so that way you avoid obvious patterns. If you want to include cards that have the same words within them, or enough cards with the same opening phrases or casings or castings or sentence structure, it's likely that most people will group them together. So that's what I meant by comparing bunches of bananas to bunches of grapes. They're both bunches, so that you can categorize that either way. So you want to make sure that you avoid that. And keep the time committed to around 10 to 15 minutes, with the need to provide sufficient context. Like that way, if participants have certain questions, you can follow up with them. Again, make sure, if you worry that there's not enough information through the text, include images to illustrate or clarify what the text represents. And then for closed card sorting specifically, make sure you create enough categories so that people find a home for most cards. The more categories you have means the more options that members have, which means a better overall standing of which categories are preferred over others. So you get to the more granular, the more you can start granular and then net your way back in and find overall themes. You can't really stretch it. You can't really do the reverse. And then lastly, review your data as you go. This is especially important for open card sorting. The setting up part is one thing, but the analysis may take some time. As you see data come back, definitely look at the categories that are being used and become familiar with the labeling that your participants suggest. It helps you identify patterns more quickly or more easily, especially when you are looking at, especially when you're analyzing data midway or before you've closed the exercise itself. If you need to review after every 10 to 20 participants, feel free to do that, so that you again, going back to understanding or getting familiar with how your participants or how your customers label certain cards. So this is just a brief overview of how card sorting is done within the QuestionPro platform. So you can either set up closed card sorting and then create the categories by scratch, or in this case, this is open card sorting, so you don't see any categories available here. This is a brief video of what it would look like if you were to drag and drop cards into a closed card sorting exercise. This is just a brief overview of what this looks like. And then soon enough, so we go to the next question. This is how open card sorting would look. So you would drop an item into a category above, and then you would create the category and then you would label that category. And then from there, you can either keep adding cards into different categories, or you can add them into existing ones that you've already created. We'll look more into the analysis when I share the platform. But this is what it would look like for closed card sorting, and here's how it would look for open-ended card sorting. Again, I'll dive more into that when we, as I share my screen here. So here's an example of a card sorting survey example. And if I go back into my workspace or where I built this survey out, it'll look very similar. It'll look similar to the example that was presented in the card sorting section. Now, if I go back to these analytics here, here's how I have the data laid out. So as you can see, I have many different tourist sites or places to go, and a lot of them could affiliate to a lot of different things. So in this case, I just sort of created a, oops, wait 1 second.
Yeah, we can't even see you. You disappeared.
Cool. Thank you, Crystal. Can you guys see that? So here's an example of how the analytics are done for closed card sorting. So we have our groups and they're color coded. And this is just a sample done from 7 participants so far. But you get to see what things strongly represent. So if I were to look at Paris and find what category that falls into, most people said cities. And you can also you can look at a breakdown. If you didn't want to keep referring back to the color code, you could also look and analyze, get a summary of out of these participants, what percentage said what. And something that I also want to point out is that these are mutually exclusive categories. Like a card can have an opportunity to fall into any number of categories, but they can only be assigned to one. So you can look at your data this way, and then below that, you get to look at the splits, counts, percentages, and this is what I mentioned before about the average rank, is that you're able to see where specifically they fell into the bucket. So you can also just dive into, okay, what categories did consumers drag and drop certain items into, and then to what extent were they affiliated to these categories, at least compared to others. I'm just going to look at, we have a question from Janice. This table has decimal places in the percentages, and yet your respondent size is 50. Makes it appear that it is a representative sample. So in this case, we don't have 50 respondents. This is sort of a test dummy exercise where there are a total of 7 participants who have joined. So that's why you're seeing decimal points. And then we're going to move over, and then I'm just show you an example of how that would appear. If I were to use open card sorting, in this case, I've only built out 2 completes. But instead of having bar charts, because we don't have predefined categories, we have our list of categories. We have list of categories created by participants that fall in here. So here's what I meant about making sure that you use open-ended coding when it comes to open card sorting, because very rarely will 2 respondents give the same category answers. Even if they do, you have to watch out for case sensitive or misspelling or anything like that. But this would give you a representation of how people perceive certain data or how they perceive categories and how they create them. So it gives you a sense of not only how members categorize items, but also to what categories that they created as what categories come to mind when they see these cards or when they see these attributes. But similar to closed card sorting, this is how data would be also displayed as a table below here. And if you were to export as an Excel doc, it would be formatted this way as well. So we're just going to close out this window, and then we're going to we're going to take the next 15 minutes for Q&A. And yeah, just to conclude, if you're looking to design a website, or if you're working with your web dev team and you're not sure how to organize your information, or if you need to find out if a certain product or service translates to your target audience, card sorting will help you find those answers. And again, whether you're trying to categorize to better affiliate your content, or you're waiting, or you're wanting to develop item hierarchy, whether it's important or usage, card sorting is very helpful in that sort of way.
Okay, so it looks like we have a few questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Can images be sorted instead of just text?
Yes. So within our platform, we're able to, so what we can do is we can randomize our attributes, but we can also select what we want to have randomized. Personally, for best practice, if you're going to be doing this online within the QuestionPro platform, I like to have everything be randomized, just to avoid bias. Because something that could very easily happen is you can see there can be a card option at the top of a page, and you'll see a category, especially for closed card sorting. There can be a category that you see at the top of the page, and you chose to select that category just because it was the first category that you saw and that you found affiliates to that item. So when it comes to best practices, I think the best thing to do is to randomize, or you can select randomize. The whole purpose is to have everything out, is to lay everything out in an unorganized fashion and let your participants categorize or do the classifying. So that's why I say make sure everything's in random or scattered. You don't want to have certain things. I mean, you can have certain items predetermined, but it also might influence the participant in terms of how they're going to categorize. So you want to give them context of what these concepts represent or what they fall under. That way they know how to best categorize these items, but you don't want to influence their decisions.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for the question, Bonnie. We appreciate it. And now we have another one about, is there any logic available?
Logic available as in like show and hide logic or skip logic?
Let's go with both.
Well, for show hide logic, we can certainly do that. Yes, if we can set up show hide logic, whether it's based on a response that you gave earlier in the survey or based on profiling criteria. In this case, if you have an active community and you have members participating in a certain study, you can geo-target or go by custom variables. So yes, as far as show hide logic goes, you certainly can do that. And then for card sorting, or as far as like skip logic, this is a great question, by the way. This is something that never came to mind. For skip logic, I actually have to look more into that. I'll follow up with you as far as like what, if you can apply skip logic based on answers that are given. I believe you can if you conduct closed card sorting, because you can't foresee in an open card sorting exercise, you can't foresee exactly what members are going to say. But I'll definitely follow up more with more information about that.
What about, does branching logic work on this too?
Similar to skip logic, you could only apply that really for closed card sorting. I'd have to look into it to see if you can't, only because those categories are predefined. Whereas with open card sorting, again, you can't foresee what respondents are saying, so you can't really predefine logic when the path for them isn't entirely predefined, if that makes sense.
I gotcha. Cool. Okay, let me look. Let's see if we got some more. When are appropriate times to use card sorting in my surveys? Example, could you drag and drop the same attribute into multiple categories?
So you want to make sure that you have categories for, you make sure you have enough categories so that any and all cards can fall into a category. But to answer your question, they are mutually exclusive. So it's not like you can drag and drop. It's not like you can drag and drop the same card into multiple categories. It is literally just a matter of what you find to be the best, what you find to affiliate the best. Now, when you look at the data and you see that some participants assigned a card into one category, or assigned a card as a collective, they assigned a category to assigned a card to 3 different categories. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. If the collective members assign one card to multiple categories, you can take a look at that, and that can be your opportunity of seeing, okay, this card can represent a number of different things. So if I was building this out on a website, if I was creating if I was building out an inventory on the website, maybe it's best that I include this item in multiple parts of my site.
Gotcha.
Or that there are multiple paths for that to be discovered.
Okay. Can we use hold on, here we go. Can we use open card sorting for larger groups of people and then conduct part 2 of that research with closed card sorting with a smaller sample size? Are there best practices for this?
Certainly. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I mean, if you, by putting together an open card sorting, that can give you a much better, picture for how you want to conduct card sorting going forward. So if you want to have it be a closed card sorting exercise and have it be more of an evaluative exercise rather than a generative exercise, you can certainly do that. Though I do say, make sure to keep it to within, make sure to have good representation. Like, you want to have up to 50 responses per exercise. Certainly, especially with closed card sorting, you definitely want to make sure that you have a lot of participants joining. It's one thing when in open card sorting, when you have so many when there are so many categories that come to mind from so many participants, and then you have to net and group those all together. So to follow up on the second part of your question, make sure that you just get enough sample size for whether it's open card sorting or closed card sorting. Make sure that you have enough sample all the same.
Cool, awesome.
But you can certainly do that. Yes, you can use the information that you have in an open card sorting exercise, and then you can apply that to a closed card sorting exercise in the foreseeable future.
Right. And if somebody wanted to get card sorting in their current QuestionPro platform, let's say they're already a customer, what kind of license type and who do they need to reach out to chat more about it?
Great question. I think I need to look more into that. Card sorting does fall into one of our advanced question types, so I don't believe. So I'd have to look more into that and see, depending on what license that you have, if it's available or not.
Okay, so I think it is it's in their research license, right? So if you do want to you want to chat with us about your research license or getting the research license, make sure to reach out to us via chat or your account rep, or John or Dan or even myself are more than happy to chat with anyone about these kind of features.
Cool. Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got you. Okay, do we have any other question? Oh, here we go. How to know when to keep card sorting closed versus open and vice versa?
Again, I think that sort of depends. If the categories that you want to have are predefined, then closed card sorting will probably work better for you. That's always such a good question, and it really does depend. I think if you're looking for more evaluative insights, and if it's more about a matter of understanding or getting into the persona of your customers, of your target audience, open close ending might be more beneficial, because you're really developing, a persona of what comes to mind when they think your products or your services, things like that. Whereas closed card sorting is it's more of whether if like you're working on a website, that's more for determining, does my website need an update or reform, or does it not? The worst case scenario when you do closed card sorting is that your insights align, exactly with what you had hypothesized, or it aligns with exactly how your website is currently built out, or aligns exactly with how your inventory is set up now. So worst case scenario, you don't have to change a thing. So that's why you'd use closed card sorting, whereas with open card sorting, it's more from scratch. It's more generative. It's more evaluative than generative.
Okay. Is it possible to assign the same card in 2 topics?
You cannot. You want to make sure that you have enough categories so that each card can be welcomed or can be affiliated into any of the following categories, but they are mutually exclusive. It is just a matter of assigning which card is best affiliates to what category.
Cool. Could you create the category and then allow for open/create your own comments to prioritize effectiveness or need of potential options or products?
That's a great question. So within QuestionPro, that's currently not a feature that we have in place. Earlier I mentioned that you can mix both together, especially if you're running a study in lab or in office, you can do that. Though within QuestionPro, that is currently a project feature that is in the pipeline. So definitely be on the lookout for that, but it's currently not available within QuestionPro Surface.
Okay. Okay, it looks like we have one more question. If nobody, or drop it in there if you have one, and we will get it going. Let me find the last question. What else is card sorting good for besides UX research?
Besides UX research, that's a very common question. When I remember learning about card sorting initially, that was like one of the first questions that come to mind. It's like, it seems like it only has to do with UX research, but no, it can be about anything. Like it can be about inventory. It can, like, if you wanted to evaluate what's highest priority, what would be highest priority to customers versus medium priority versus low priority. You can affiliate your products and services to seasons. Like if at some point that's just an example, but you can look at how certain products and services vary or how important that they are over time. So you can do that. As a market researcher, you can bring in a pool of panel members or community members or just ad hoc folks that you pulled in through recruitment, and get an understanding of what you can provide them with a list of topics that would align with the client, or that would align with the research the long-term research that you're trying to conduct. That way you're really getting a sense of what's important for these members, what insights do they want to provide, get a stronger sense of their lifestyle, what are voids in their life in regards to certain products and services, things like that, so that you can figure out and prioritize what research focus, what focus and what research approach do I want to have research approaches do I want to have going forward, or what I want to prepare in the pipeline, and generate these insights from these members. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, J3, for your time and for educating on this. really appreciate it. To be respectful of everyone's time, it has been an hour. So we just want to thank you for coming and spending some time with us learning about card sorting. J3, do you have any closing comments?
You know, not off the top of my head, but again, feel free, if you ever want to follow up, feel free. You can email me, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Definitely let me know about any questions that you have, and I'll certainly get back to you. And again, guys, we really appreciate the time from all over the world. This is really cool. I do agree, Crystal. This is we definitely have a very interesting turnout. So yeah, feel free to reach out at any point, and I'll get back to you. Yeah, thank you guys again for attending.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and enjoy your week.
All right. I certainly will. Thank you, Crystal.
Yep. Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.